Hey, good morning, everybody. It's Mike. It is Sunday, the 15th of March. This is my week ahead video. I was going to do charts this morning. I started going through them and nothing's really changed, right? The market hasn't changed. Nothing's changed here as we go into this week. The market will bounce when this is resolved. And there's a couple different ways we can get a resolution here in the Middle East. One is Trump declares victory and walks away. I don't know what that exactly will end up looking like, but he just says, I'm done. We've had enough. We defeated them. We've won the war. I know we said that multiple times, but you kind of have to separate what he says and who he is, whether you love him or hate him. You just kind of have to just go with what's real. But it says, we're done. Okay. Two, there could be a ceasefire and some type of negotiated settlement. That would be the best in all worlds. Um, that would be the run that really just we really want to see. So, we'll keep an eye on all those. One thing you do not want to see while he's threatened is you don't want to see us hitting their oil infrastructure. Market wants to get oil back online, not take it off. So keep that in mind here as we go forward. All right. So the market will get some type of bounce based upon that, right? We could see some type of action there. We'll be watching to see if there's any type of move on that this week. Watch oil. Oil will always be the tell. From an economic perspective this week, it's pretty quiet until it's Wednesday morning. We have PPI at 8:30. I'll open the room early. Remember, it came in hot last time. Then we have the Fed at 2 o'clock and the presser at 2:30. And this is probably going to be a fairly quiet one as the Fed's not expected to make any kind of changes here. Um, you know, I'm sure they'll be asked a lot of questions about inflation. I'm sure he'll be asked a lot of questions about what he's going to do when his term retire is up in a couple of months. I'm sure he's going to be asked about the subpoena being quashed. I mean, really, it's all going to be probably a big nothing. All right, so that's our economic week. There's not a lot going on here, but the Fed will be the focus on Wednesday. In addition, we have an earnings week ahead. And it is, we're at the end of earnings season. We're getting ready to start earnings again soon. As we're going to the mark, by the way, March Madness starts this week. I can't wait. So you got Tuesday night, Oklo, Lulu, and Doku. Wednesday morning, you got Macy's. Wednesday night, Micron, big one there. See what they raise and guide. You know they're going to raise and guide up. Baba on Thursday morning and FedEx on Friday. Right now, if you're looking at pre-market futures bets, the market here is relatively quiet and stable. We're trading just basically flat here on the Dow. From a sentiment perspective, not a lot here has changed. Let's start off with highs versus lows on the NASDAQ. Um, you can see it better as I'm going through here. Plus 53 versus negative 273. We're heavily inverted, right? Highs versus lows on the New York Stock Exchange. We have, 44 names making highs, 56 making lows. We're just slightly inverted there. Put the call doesn't work to me well anymore. Now, this doesn't work because of all these daily options expirations that skews it. Market breadth is puking down. Look at this puke on the NASDAQ. Look at what's going on here as well as on the New York Stock Exchange. This is probably good. You're getting closer to the bottom when you really start to puke down. Your vast decline lines all rolling over. The NASDAQ looking very weak here. The small caps looking weak as well. And your oscillators, we have good signals here. Negative 242 on the New York Stock Exchange. We have a very good oversold signal there on the NASDAQ and as well as the New York Stock Exchange at negative 237. So we'll start looking for some type of bounce here. The ES, we've been talking about this for a while. We had this rounding top and continues to try to make this rounding top. It came down here and, here we are holding the 200-day yet again. Big spot here as we open up. By the way, this level down here, you start coming down towards this 66.55 looks interesting. The NQ, similar. Crude, this is the one to watch, right? Crude here, and you can see the size of the spike when you take it out there and you take it back in, right? Here was Monday's candle, right? Monday, fear in the market going to 119, came down. Everybody's like, okay, we're going to come down, we're going to come down. And now here we are pushing up. You got to kind of throw aside what's going on. You have been a lot of chatter. Trump, we're going to put a coalition of warships in there of all different countries to keep the straits safe. There is no interest in that, right? You got to take that from him talking. Iran saying everybody ships can go through except for Israel's and the US. Don't believe that either, right? So I think really here what you hear is both sides saying things and just trying to get their name out there in the press, right? You'll know, right? When crude starts to come down, we'll know. Right now it seems to want 100 and higher. The danger here is the longer crude stays up, the more it's going to have an effect on the global economy. And that's really what's going on out there, right? If you get a spike and we come right back down and it's short-lived, everything will be okay. We talked about having about a month to get the straits open and get this down. We're coming up and starting the third week of this, right? So here's your first week, here's week two, we're starting week three. Time is starting to tick. We need to get this resolved. You need to get oil back down into the $70 area. That's where the market really wants it to be, and that's really the sweet spot for oil. All right, too much time there. Bonds continue to be weak. They do not want U.S. bonds right now. This is kind of ugly. Gold and silver are doing nothing here. Bitcoin is firming up, but can't break out. But that said, it came in, it held up. You got to see it now break above the 74,635 area. We'll keep an eye on that. The VIX, while not out of the Bollinger Bands, remains extremely elevated here, and we're trading up in the 27 area and 20, here. And until this really comes down at this point and gets under 20, we're in a very difficult area. HYG trading weak here in the markets. The transports back to the 200-day, and the dollars where they've been hiding. Very strong move up here on the dollar as we move higher. All right, so let's go over to SPY, and then we'll move on to some sectors and names. The SPY, again, this rounding top, keep talking about levels to watch and things to watch. We came down here, and now we came down here, and here's your 5% pullback, right? 10% pullback would be down here somewhere, down closer in the 630 range. Put that on the chart for you guys later. We come down here, the 200-day is looming. There's your 200-day sitting there, 200-day at 658.60. That is an area of interest to watch if the SPY holds it. And if you cannot hold there, you can see you got some levels defined here, some little spots. There is a little gap sitting here, right? You can see this one right here, trading just below the low of this candle at 661.60, right, all the way down. So we'll keep an eye on it. Ultimately, you're going to want to watch this 650 area if we really come down. To the upside, because I'm talking nothing but downside here, we need to take back some levels. Right now, we've broken down. We're out of the Bollinger Bands and we're pushing lower, right? The 8 days not very extended off of it. So, we're not really extended down here. So, do we come down? The 21 days coming down, the 50 days curling down, the 100-day is starting to curl down. All your moving averages are starting to curl down. To really start getting some strength, you really need to clear above 686 if you want to get a rocket type move. 688, sorry, to get a rocket type move. Right now, first level is the 8 day. Wherever that sets up, that becomes your first grudge match. You do have a gap sitting in here. You can put it right there real quickly on there. You see you have this little gap that's sitting there open in the market. So if the market decides to bounce and it really has some strength and they like it, you can get a quick fill back up here to the 676.90 area. And then you have to retake the 21 day. We're going to keep it simple. Energy's been strong, just off the all-time high. Oil keeps grinding. This is probably going to keep going. Oxy is one of the better looking names on there. It has just broken out to a multi-year high. Okay, this is why I like this one on Friday, and I still like it here to continue pushing. 60 is your next big level, and then we'll watch for 65. Chevron hit a new all-time high. You'll see on the weekly, but you don't need that this week. All right, Chevron, ExxonMobil's just shy of it. Devon, why do I keep pointing out these names? Because these are some of the stronger names out there. The banks, this is part of the problem. We talked about no leadership, right? The banks, weak, selling off again, whether it's JP Morgan or Goldman. Citigroup continues to look among the best out there. So Citi kind of has my go-to status on me. XBI is holding in, is still in this channel, but under the covers, not much going on. BMY, Lilly, Merck, everything just kind of sideways. They're not hiding there this time. They're also not hiding in safety names like Colgate and Pepsi, right? And Coke, right? They're not selling them, but they're not hiding there. Verizon, AT&T remain strong, big dividend plays on those. So we know where they're not hiding. What else is going on out there? If we look at crypto names, interesting what crypto's so strong on Friday. Coin gapped up and dumped. Same thing with Hood. That's a change in character in both of these names. Safest way to trade crypto right now is to trade ETFs that track it one for one, like IBIT. I do not care for MSTR right now or BMNR if you like. You prefer Ethereum because they want these names. They do not want these leveraged ET names anymore that are really just leveraged crypto holdings. Right. So IBIT, pick your name. I like the ones that aren't leveraged. This one happens to be extremely liquid. Look, it did 100 million shares on Friday. These are easy to trade and sit in and get out. I do hold it. All right. So we got those going on. Semis here. I showed some strength early this week, then weaker in the second half. For what it's worth, Marvel came back in, holding the 8 day, still looks strong. Avgo came all the way back down to the 200-day, not looking so hot there. NVIDIA has their event this week. So NVIDIA starting on Monday, 11 o'clock on Monday, we have their GTC, and that is their keynote. And we'll be watching to see what they say here. They usually release new stuff and new items, but it usually is not a new chip, but they'll talk extensively. He may offer some more guidance on there. We'll watch and see what he says. Right now, it got rejected up here at the 100-day moving average. Basically came up into this 186 area and got rejected. And you watch that 200-day for a buy. We'll be watching to see what kind of action we get off of that one. AMD continues to be weak. That 200 days has been support. If it comes down here, it'll be the third tag of it now in the last 2 weeks. Got to hold there. If not, more gap to fill under 188.37. Okay, got to reclaim areas like 204 area here. But these are my day trading for tomorrow. I've already set my charts here. Intel continues to show some relative strength, but back underneath um, moving averages there. Names like Boeing, just when you think they're looking good, they get beat up again. New problems with the 737 MAX. Pat is holding okay. Walmart, despite the P&E being through the roof, held a 50-day and now it needs to take out 128. So those are your levels to watch there. Costco also still holding strong, not far off that high. There's some strength in these big box retailers right now. We go over to software names, IGV. IGV, for me, I talked about wanting to get a higher low. So here we are. We have a little, even called a cup and a handle here, right? You just come in, you could put a little quick drawing on it. I mean, whatever you want to do it. It's not pretty. Maybe sometimes it's better to go close, right? Pick whatever you want. But you have this downtrend here. So you really want to be bullish and you want to be safe. You wait for a break of 88. Not you watch, you see if it keeps coming down. If it came down to that 80 area and bounced off of that, that might make a nice entrance. What we do know is names are acting differently. We're seeing strength in cybersecurity. Crowd has had a strong couple weeks. Palo Alto as well. Why? Probably because concerns over Iranian attacks, but overall, these are good to see that these are waking up. Oracle had a much better than expected report. However, it's given the whole most of them a move back at this point. Adobe was crap. Palantir out there continues to try to break the 50-day and struggling with it. You can see it continues to close under it despite 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of the last 6 days trying to break out above it. Teams like Snowflake are not doing much or hanging here. CRM, Salesforce continues to look weak, watching that gap at 205.56. Go to big cap tech. Microsoft couldn't break that 410 area, rolled over. It wanted to retest that 380 area, maybe the 381. Keep an eye on it. 410 area is the level you really need to break there. Netflix would have shown some strength here is now congesting. This still looks good. I like the fact that it's been cooling off now. And now if we get a nice type move or an upgrade on it or something, I like it above the 96 level. Amazon, again, has shown some strength here at times, but not looking great. Has so far put in a couple of higher lows. Can it continue? And that's something to watch. Watch right here. Can it continue to hold this series of higher lows and try to push itself up? Meta talk out tonight that they're going to lay off 20% of their workforce as their costs keep going up. Market will like that. See what it does. That said, however, it got ugly. Have delayed of their new model, the avocado model, I think somebody said it was on Friday, and he came all the way down here. It came down, it filled this gap. So now you have another gap to fill if it decides to push back up, right? So this gap is gone, wiped out. Now we're trying to push back up here, and we'll see what we get overall. Meta not acting well despite a great report and great guidance. Still like the name long term. Apple continues to act just weak and sold off the last couple of days. I think it wants to date with that 245 area and the 200-day. Google continues to hold well in digestion. You still have that head and shoulders pattern here, but it has not broken down yet. 21-day resistance there. You can try to keep buying it off this 294 area. So whatever we're going to get this week, we're in a headline-driven market. And the one thing to realize here is in a headline-driven market, the market is going to gyrate quickly on these headlines, but it doesn't stop to ask if they're real or not first. It just goes and then it suddenly comes coming back. You got to be careful chasing into stuff like this. If you don't have the news quickly, let it go. I'd like to hopefully we get out of this, and then we'll see what we got. Remember, once we get Iran over with, then we go back to everything else that was bothering the market there. Fed on Wednesday. I hope you guys are doing well. Link in the description. You want to join us in our trading? We'd love to have you, and I'll catch all of you live in the morning tomorrow morning. Have a great Sunday.